Hi everyone, it is Kimber, the study abroad specialist here, and in today's video we are continuing on with the remarkable benefits of study abroad series. So if you got a chance to watch the last video where I kicked off the series and started talking about benefits of study abroad, in the previous video we covered the benefit of adventure. And so adventure is a huge part of study abroad and can really enhance your study abroad experience. And in today's video, I want to talk a little bit more about the benefit of becoming a better version of yourself, whatever that means for you. And I'll dive a little bit deeper into thinking about some of the ways that was true for me during my study abroad experience, but also just thinking about some of the other ways that I know that it has impacted friends that I have known and also a lot of the students that I advise. So when it comes to thinking about the benefit of using study abroad to become a better version of yourself, I would say that the number one thing that study abroad taught me and that I sort of learned, well, it's not the number one thing, but in terms of becoming a better version of myself, it definitely led me to become a prouder citizen. And I didn't think that was possible. I mean, personally, for me and my own experience, I've always been very proud American, super patriotic, born and raised in a part of the country where that is just a part of the culture, the American South. And so I never really thought about what it meant to not be patriotic and not be proud to be an American until I um, moved to a different part of the country where that wasn't part of the culture. But we're not talking about that today. Specifically for studying abroad, I think that it really helped to open my mind with so many different things. But I think that it made me appreciate America and what it means to be an American a lot more. I think specifically in living in a place like the UK. And again, I love the UK so much. I love London specifically, but the UK in general. And I really do, like, I love so much about it. But I think that particularly sort of the sort of spirit that Americans have of, or at least that we used to have, of, sort of can do, it doesn't matter where you come from. We do have sort of a class system, but it's sort of not there in many ways, where it doesn't matter where you come from, that sort of spirit. Yes, a lot of people do have a lot of great opportunities and get ahead faster, but I think that in a lot of times when I was particularly once I started working in the UK and started working around a lot of people who were not raised that way, it was really hard for me to understand, like, why don't you have like this like self-possessed confidence in yourself, and why don't you feel like you can do it, and why don't you feel like you're the best? And I think that in some ways, like, I had to just accept that that's not a part of that particular culture, whereas here in the US it is. And so that is just something that really made me proud. Is it always true for everyone that everyone can make it? Probably not. But it's something that I feel that is a huge part of our culture, that is a really positive thing and that people know us for. And that was just like a small part that made me proud. But I think in other ways, it just made me proud to just feel that overall, like, coming from a country that is part of the West was really important to me as well. Because particularly in my graduate programs, I had the great opportunity to have students in my class that were from places like the Far East, or from places like Russia, from places that are a lot more overall oppressive to people, not what we would say microaggressive. So not, like specific groups of people, but just overall their culture on a macro level is not necessarily the freest of the free. And I would say that it just made me a little bit more proud, not arrogantly proud, but just proud to be from a place where I know that if I have the opportunity and I take the opportunity and I can make the best of the cards that I've been dealt, that I can, get ahead and thrive in life. And I know everyone doesn't feel that way. That's okay, but this is my video and this is how I feel. So I would just say that that was definitely one benefit of studying abroad for me and becoming my best version of myself. So I think that that is something to think about, like for, wherever you're traveling to. And like I said, I definitely want to point out, it's not about being arrogant about it. Like, I wasn't like walking around like, the streets of London, like, oh, this American, I'm this, I'm that. Like, I definitely was not doing that, because as I said before, it is important to assimilate. But I think just sort of thinking about, particularly once you have a chance to return home and you reflect that I am so grateful, number one, that I was born an American, but also that after hearing a lot of the stories from the students who came from other countries that were much more, not as free, that just being born in the West and being born in a place like America and similar to the UK and other parts of Western Europe, where we just take so many of these things for granted, and realizing that there are people that are, our own age or younger or older, that, every day they wake up, their life is not like ours. And that it just is amazing to be able to sort of step back and think about what we actually have and how it can impact us for the future. So, for the next point that I would like to make for how you can use study abroad as a benefit to become the best version of yourself, I would definitely say that is an opportunity to learn how to be more tolerant and more optimistic about different views. And I think that this is important, particularly for college students, sometimes for high school students. But I think in a lot of ways, like college is marketed to be a place where people can, sort of express themselves, and, they will get to hear these different views. But in a lot of ways, and it's not just in the US, it tends to skew that way. In the US, they can be indoctrination factories, to be honest with you. I mean, they really can be. It's like there is definitely a particular political leaning that is very strong on a lot of college campuses, especially here in the United States. There's a particular turn towards secularism, and that is fine. I mean, if you go to a school that is not based in religion, that's okay. You would expect that, but there's a lot of less room for debate and much more focus on, here's how it should be, here's what you should think. And no one should be paying $75,000 a year to be hearing that, or however much you're paying. It doesn't make any sense. And not in the US. There are some places as well where it's like that too. I found I had a great experience when I went to the UK. As I said in a previous video, I feel like I learned more and got to experience more positive things in my 2.5 years at a UK college campus than I did in my time here on any college campus that I happened to be at here in the US. It was not a good experience for me. But again, I'm a different student. There are all different types of students out there. And so I just think that being able to study abroad gives you that sort of second opportunity to really get to see it, because again, you're going outside of your culture, right? So that's the first one. So you kind of are forced to be in front of people that think different than you in some ways. You also too get the opportunity to, get to experience a different culture. You may have to deal with the potential of having to break through a different language barrier. There are all these different things, and I think that it doesn't matter, your political views, your worldview. You're gonna come against that, or you sort of have to face that. You're, in order to assimilate well and to operate well in your host country, in the country that you've decided to study abroad in, that you're gonna have to sort of drop your stereotypes, your preconceived notions of things, and really embrace it. It doesn't mean that you have to love it. It doesn't mean that it has to become an entire part of your being for the rest of your life, but that you're really going to have to cut through that. And so if there are certain customs that people do in the country that you are going to, and you need to try and learn all of this beforehand as well, it's going to really help you. But if there are certain cultural customs or certain rules that people have, I think that one of the things that I learned for myself, being an American student, and then also this kind of followed me in the UK when I was working in the UK, is there is a really strict thing culturally about time. So things start on time and end on time. And I mean, this is kind of like from the top up, right? So for example, if you look at prime minister questions every Wednesday. They start at 12, they end at 12:30. Like it's a very strict thing. In America, like we claim that we like to be on time, but it's like, oh, 5 minutes late, like 10 minutes late, sometimes a teacher shows up to class late. Like, I mean, I at least know from my experience in the UK, like if the class starts at 10 and you're not in your seat at 10, the door is locked at 10, no one else is getting in. And I had to learn that, because, it's like you think, well, it's a passing period. Like, I have a few minutes to walk in. It is not like that at all. At least it was not for me. And in every culture, there's something like that. So it could be where, there's a certain way that you have to, address people, or there's, a certain way that you talk about a particular topic. Like you'll need to learn what those things are, but you need to get very familiar and sort of learn how to be more tolerant and be more willing to, as I mentioned in the other video, assimilate to those things, because you're not going to change it and you shouldn't be trying to change it. Like you don't need to go to places to change places. I know, again, I'm not trying to beat up on Americans, but as Americans, we do try to go to different places and change them. You don't need to change them. You need to learn how to work with them. So whatever the culture is that you're going into, stop trying to make it like your culture and accept what the particular culture is. It's going to make the experience a much better for you. So I think that, sort of learning how to be more tolerant and more open of whatever those differences are and embrace them for however long you're going to be there, it's only going to enrich your experience much more. For the third way that you can use study abroad to benefit yourself to become the best version of yourself is, I would say, definitely to just think about how you want to incorporate the lessons that you have learned, some of the mistakes that you've made, what the overall, feeling that you've had while you've been in your host country. How are you going to take those parts forward? So this is one of the things that I do with students that I advise. I do a lot of kind of advising for students that are just getting started with study abroad, but then I also advise students who are returning home, and I also advise students that are in different parts of their career as well. So one of the things that we try and talk about when I do the advising, or if I'm just, talking to a group of students that have studied abroad or are, sort of winding down their time abroad, is to think about how you want to use all of this. So for some students, they just wanted it on their resume. It's not that big of a deal. For some students, they really just want an opportunity to be able to travel to a different country, sort of get the experience of learning, how a different country operates educationally. And then they want to be able to take that back to their home country and then continue their degree or continue whatever they're doing. But there are some students that maybe they want to eventually work in something like international relations, or they're interested in maybe traveling abroad and studying abroad later along in their path, or maybe they just feel like this is really going to help them with their career. I think that you can use this to think about how you can benefit yourself overall as a person. Think about how you can tie in all that you've learned to, within the semester or within this year, however long you've studied abroad, to, make something that is even better. So, maybe you learned better study skills. Maybe you learned better communication skills. Maybe you learned better time management skills. Maybe you learned, that you need to work on some things. These are all things that I think a environment like study abroad can help you with, so that you can continue to grow and build yourself as a better person by the time you return home. Okay, so that is the second part of the Remarkable Benefits of Study Abroad series, talking about how you can use study abroad and your study abroad experience to become the best version of yourself. I hope that this video was useful to you. If you know other students that are interested in studying abroad, maybe at the same time as you, maybe not, but you still know they want to do it, go ahead and share this video with them. And also click the subscribe button, because you're going to want to come back and stick around to hear the other 3 parts in this series and all the other videos that I put out every single Friday. And then also go ahead and click the like button as well. Give this video a like so that more people can start to see it who are interested in studying abroad. And I will see you in the next one.